There we go. Let's get our Facebook folks in here and we can start the show. Got our wheels spinning, hanging out, having a good time. Oh, one didn't go. I'm going to leave that up to our Mr. Producer, Scott, in the background. Probably elated that Chelsea had a good game today, and I'm elated. I'm here. I didn't have it yesterday with Eric, but have it today. Good to see this as Broncos, building the Broncos for breakfast, obviously for dinner. I am Nick Kendell, joined by Erick Trickel. Eric, good to see you. I'm hoping that my internet is not crapping out right now. Yeah, no, dude, we are here to talk some Broncos. It is July 8th, so it is the slow season, but we got some fun stuff to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, it's always tough during this time of year to come up with stuff to talk about, stuff to write about, but fortunately something came out today and if you dig hard enough, there's almost always something. But it's nice that we're finally in a month where football's back. Granted, it's the Hall of Fame game, but at least it's real football. And it's just another day closer to the regular season, which I know I'm excited for, you're excited for, and I'm sure everybody in the chat is excited for.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be good to see things training camp and starting to get some new news. Now, granted, the Broncos keep that under lock and key, like a KGB out there with not letting people say things exactly what's going on. But we start to get a little bit of an idea. One thing I will say, I do miss the openness of the Nathaniel Hackett camps. Right, we had a lot of news, but if it's the results on the field that we got with Hackett compared to with Sean Payton, they could not tell me anything. And we could deal with better football when it actually matters. So let's say hello to everybody in here as we're hanging out. We got a star coming in here from our guy D Money David out there in Chi-Town. Hope you're doing well. I think he's at least in Chi-Town area. He says, "Will you be surprised if a player gets extended before July 25th?" Two questions here, two for the price of one. He says, two. Which unsigned round 2 pick will be the first big domino to fall in the coming weeks? So would I be surprised if a player gets extended before July 25th? A little bit. I think I'll be a little surprised. I mean, granted, they worked it out before, but that was about when things came through Quinn Miners, Patrick Surtain last year. So I guess I'd be a little surprised because there hasn't been too much of buzz on it, but could happen.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to put it on a scale of like 1 to 10 of how surprised I'd be, it'd be like a 3 or a 4. Just because, as you're saying, is like things are quiet, so maybe they're working on stuff behind the scenes and it hasn't really broken out. Though that can be difficult because typically agents like to leak that information out, and that they're negotiating and using that to help potentially help other clients or favors for other things. But so there's no news there, so that would be of a slight surprise. But at the same time, but again, they know that they got to get these deals done and sooner rather than later with some of them. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do either. So I'm right there in the middle on the surprise scale, I guess.
And as far as the unsigned round 2 picks will be the first domino to fall. So yeah, there's a thing going on right now with the guarantees with the round 2 players. Has a single round 2 player even signed yet? I haven't been following the other teams round 2, but the way David's sets up the question here, it makes it sound like there hasn't been. So I don't know what that means for the league at large, but we're still waiting on RJ Harvey, of course, to sign his deal. But yeah, that's I know it has a lot to do with the guaranteed money and which way it could go.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing someone in the second round, at least like 1 or 2 signed. Because Jaden Higgins, if I remember correctly, he signed with the Houston Texans. And then I think there was another one, Carson Sweshinger. I think he signed as well. But outside of that, I can't remember seeing any other second round picks. So most of them haven't signed. But as you said, it seems that the issue with them is the money aspect, the guaranteed money. So we'll wait and see. I'm sure that we'll start getting more of those signings. And I know that a lot of Broncos fans specifically are waiting on Jade Barron and RJ Harvey to sign their deals. I wouldn't be surprised if those 2 deals get done right at the start of training camp or even before training camp to where they're coming in on that rookie contract. So that's about where things stand. I'm not sure who it'll be, but I'm sure we'll start getting more of those rookie signings coming in here soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, David, for the super chat. He also has Schlesinger signed. So they got the 2 there, Higgins and Schlesinger. Both played on teams that beat Iowa last year. That's what I can tell you about those 2 guys right now. David McElrath, Papa Bear, good evening, Broncos country. He's saying 13-4. I'm just ready for that Broncos first win. Then we're going to see this tick up to 14-3 plus. So appreciate you coming in. Hope you're doing well. Appreciate the super chat. If you guys aren't like David and David, if you're named David, then I guess you have to drop a super chat. But if not, make sure you click the thumbs up. We got John Rosell. There we go. I was going to say Roswell. And Jason Rendon, of course, and also Phil McLaughlin with the WoW React. Always good to see Phil. Hope you're doing well. David Youngkin's in the house. So last season, talking about the topic today, Bill Barnwell said last season ranked the Broncos 30th, this season 23rd. Spoiler alerts. Yeah, we'll get into it here, but improvement, baby, improvement. Ernie Mays, go Broncos country only. Go Ernie Mays. Not only. I cheer for a lot of people, but go Ernie. We got MBLE test prep. I'm here to party. Big E's in the house. Good to see you, Big E. 8805 says, I believe. Good to see you. Mark Hoynak, another day closer to kickoff. Yeah, they're inching close. That'll be great once it happens. Dylan, rocking. Good to see you. Dylan stepping in and helping with everything. Paul's in the house. Good evening, chat. Building the Broncos for breakfast. Hello, Nick and Eric. Edward Kading in the house as well. Good to see you, Edward. Our guy, Michael Ronquillo with the stars. Good evening, Nick and Eric. I'm building the Broncos. Go, Bo Broncos. I don't know if he's saying there's still these two have signed it, if they're about to sign.
Those are his picks for the next.
The next two dominoes to fall. Not following the league at large as much, so that we'll see. And Dylan's just clocking in. No, Dylan, you're here because you miss us. So appreciate you coming in. And the big news, I guess, today, we do have Bill Barnwell's rankings here. He does really good work. I think where was he with before ESPN? Was he Yahoo for a while?
I think it might have been Yahoo. I can't remember for sure.
Well, Bill Barnwell is definitely one of the more respected NFL writers. You might not like what he has to say, but he's going to say it as he sees it. And again, he's going to be, I think, fairly unbiased. You might call him biased because he doesn't rank your team highly, but I think overall he does a pretty good job. Always love to hear what he has to say and read what he has to write. So Bill Barnwell today comes in with the Broncos, and he's ranking the skill position groups. And let's track it back, Eric. 6 months ago, I don't know how long ago was it now, that 5 months ago, before the offseason happened, big thing we were harping on with this team was, of course, the Broncos skill position group, right? We had questions behind Cortland Sutton for sure. You had absolutely nothing at tight end unless you're an Adam Troutman believer. And the running back position was dire. I mean, we said it on the show leading up to the draft. Like, we're more trench-oriented people, but it could be argued the Broncos had the worst skill position group in football. Well, they've made some moves there. There's still pretty a lot of question marks, obviously, with the 23rd overall. But you bring in Harvey, you bring in Dobbins, you draft another guy. Broncos not dead last in the skill position group, but it definitely, I think, on the surface. I mean, we did the grades last Monday, and we graded the position groups, and we were not above, I think, a C+ on any of the running back, wide receiver, tight end. So we're low on them too relative to the league, but there's a lot of the infamous P word potential.
Yeah. And when looking at Barnwell's ranking, it's worth remembering too that he hasn't waited for wide receivers, and that to me makes it a fair ranking, right? If you're going to especially wait for the wide receivers, because Evan Ingram, Cortland Sutton, those are the two big guys. RJ Harvey's potential, J.K. Dobbins with the injury and how well injury stuff, and then the lack of efficiency after the first few weeks. And then wide receiver room is all potential. He mentions Marvin Mims as his best gadget player in the NFL or something like that. I can't remember the exact wording he used. And then you have Pat Bryant, who's a rookie. You have Troy Franklin, who needs to take a step up. He doesn't even mention Devon Bailey. So it's all potential in that wide receiver room. So I think 23rd is actually pretty fair for what the Broncos have between the three positions.
Yeah, I think it is fair, and I'm happy to see him kind of put his thumb on the scale for wide receivers, because they do make up a majority of the value of your skill position group. Shiloh coming in here, $2, saying, evening gang on my evening ruck while listening. So he must be walking the dog. That's what I'm getting from that. If you're out, I think you're up in the north there, not too far north, Minnesota. You're north for Iowa standards. But make sure you're not getting eaten alive by those mosquitoes, and watch out for those ticks. Ugh, man, ticks on dogs. That's the grossest. Roy Osborne in here. Hey, Nick, Eric, and Scott. Breakfast for dinner. I love it. I'm a breakfast for dinner guy myself. Sweet, savory. Either way, it sounds good. Paul says 17-0. I do have neighbors that have earthy air freshener escaping their garage. Oh, well, I mean, go put on some, CCR and go hang out. And yeah, Zeus is out with him on the walk, so that's great. But yeah, Paul, I mean, God bless him, free country. But yeah, moving forward, so the teams that he had ranked worse than the Broncos, of course. So you have the Broncos coming at 23. You have the Chargers right ahead at 22. But at 24, you have the Saints. 25, you have the Bears, which, considering how much hype we had for the Bears skill group last season and drafting Colston Loveland and everything, that's seems pretty low. DJ Moore and Roma Dunze there, but that's one that's pretty low there. 26, you have the Giants with Malik Neighbors. 27, you have the Jets. 28, you have the Bills. 29, the Browns. 30th, the Patriots. 31, the Panthers. And 32, the Titans. So teams that, you'd wish Denver was a little bit higher. But this is what Bill has to say exactly. Sean Payton is excited about his new charges in Denver. But unless RJ Harvey, Evan Ingram, and Pat Bryant become the new Alvin Kamara, Jimmy Graham, and Michael Thomas overnight, I might chalk that up to idle spring and summer optimism, which, fair. I wouldn't be surprised if one of those guys breaks out and lives up to the lofty expectations, but asking everybody on the roster to have a 95th percentile season versus their prior production or draft status just might be virtue of playing under Payton is a tall order. Payton and quarterback Bo Nix got the best season out of the top wideout Cortland Sutton that we've seen in years, with a boot-heavy attack allowing the 2018 second-round pick to separate from defenders while running across the field, as opposed to relying on what had been inconsistent physicality on the top of routes. Sutton topped 2.0 yards per route run and had only 3 drop passes all season. It's a good season. Although one cost the Broncos a shot at 3 points in a 2-point loss to the rival Kansas City Chiefs. I wouldn't put that one on Sutton, but God bless. I raved about Marvin Mims as the league's best gadget player last month, and though Troy Franklin never seemed to land on the same page with Nix, the rookie receiver was able to get open for potential big plays more often than his eventual numbers suggested, 28 catches for 2 touchdowns. Summer editions of J.K. Dobbins slowed down quickly after a hot start with the Chargers and has a significant injury history, but he offers the Broncos much-needed experience in the backfield as they work Harvey into the lineup. I would not be surprised to see Payton get the most out of this group, given his acumen, but this wouldn't be an imposing unit in the league average hands. So, again, it's kind of a lot of what we've said, Eric. The offensive group, if it was just, purely relying on them to be great in their own area on space, like ISO, maybe not great. With Sean Payton and the offensive line, I feel okay about it. I feel okay about it.
Yeah, it's like that. We talked about that a lot with the running game with RJ Harvey coming in, that the infrastructure is in place with the coaching, the play calling, the offensive line. And that can, trickle out to the passing game as well, because Sean Payton has shown over the years that he really understands, passing concepts of getting guys open, scheming guys open, and different ways to attack defenses. So there's always a boost you got to give the units when you have Sean Payton as a head coach. And that's kind of and Bill Barnwell, he kind of implies on or touches on that. And so it's one of those things, as you said, if it wasn't for Sean Payton, I'd be a lot more down on the rooms altogether, because there's just still a lack of talent there, a lot of potential, but a lack of realized talent. And that, to me, that's a pretty big difference there. But Sean Payton, hopefully he can get that talent and that potential out of them and starts becoming realized talents, especially with guys like Pat Bryant, Troy Franklin, Devon Vele, RJ Harvey, these young guys that they're looking to, inexperienced, I shouldn't say young when including Devon Vele, but these lack of experience guys as they're trying to, take the next step as a team. It was great that they did what they did last year to get back into the playoffs, but now the expectations are greater than they were. And I think a good portion of Broncos country and even some national media seem to be expecting a playoff win out of this team this year. So they really need Sean Payton to pull a lot out of them, as well as them stepping up on an individual level as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually, Bill Barnwell, kind of speaking to my heart, he's a nerd. You can tell just by the way he writes, but he's talking about Harvey, Ingram, and Bryant, and all of them reaching the 95th percentile outcome of their play this season, which it's a lot we talked about last season, more so with the defense coming into this year with so many questions. And Broncos did hit the 95th percentile a lot on those defensive guys. So again, should we expect it? No, but I'm not going to say that it's not going to happen either. Out of the guys you listed there, as far as one of the players that can bust out of RJ Harvey, Evan Ingram, and Pat Bryant, who are you banking on right now?
I think RJ Harvey.
Yeah.
Just because he's the easiest one. The transition from running college to NFL for running backs, far easier. And then the Broncos have, again, that infrastructure in place with an offensive line that did well in run blocking last year. It just wasn't realized because the guy running the ball couldn't see things. Well, vision with RJ Harvey is a big bonus for him. It's one of those positives to his game. So he should be able to take advantage of the run blocking up front of him, as well as having that speed and that burst to help him out when he sees things to get upfield quickly. He's the one with the easiest road ahead of him to be that breakout player, or one who reaches that level, or whatever way you want to put it.
Yeah, I was really in on Harvey, and then it feels like in the last week, there's been a lot more Harvey being more slowly implemented. Granted, again, everything is theory at this point, especially for running backs. So they're not going to keep Harvey from getting the football if he is quite obviously the best player. But there's been some Jaleel McLaughlin conversation, and then J.K. Dobbins seems to be pecking order number one with Harvey, the wild card right now. So I might actually lean Evan Ingram just because he's worked in the league. Now, long term, definitely not. But there's proof of concept there with him. We have the whole Peyton going on and on about the Joker, and Evan Ingram sending out the Joker tweets immediately as well. So there's just not a lot of path of resistance for him as far as making a role this season, where the other two, there's at least a few more, trees that have branches sucking up sunlight, if you will. So I'll probably go Evan Ingram right now. I think that the ceiling is not as high as both those other guys, but again, just being an NFL player, the fact they went out from free agency and got him, he's the one that I would bank on as far as the 95th percentile player, with the caveat, add the ticker underneath, as long as he's not injured. Injuries always change the conversation.
That's my thing is I have a hard time betting on Evan Ingram being healthy for more than 12 games this season, just because that's kind of what history suggests. Last year, I believe he missed 8 games, 4 at the start of the season with the hamstring, if I remember right, and then tore his pec to end the season, missing the last 4. So I have a hard time betting on him staying healthy. And as for RJ Harvey being brought along slowly, I'll believe it when I see it. It just seems to be one of those things to create conversation. From conversations I've had, it really seems like RJ Harvey is the top dog in the running back room, with J.K. Dobbins as the one behind him. And that's what they're going to be looking to. And I mean, for months, I've been talking about Jaleel McLaughlin making this roster as that third back that's in that slasher role. And from what I've heard is that he seems to have kind of, at least in OTAs and minicamp, which again, very hard for evaluating running backs because of the limits that they have, seems to be, separated himself from Audric Estime, Tyler Bidet, and Blake Watson for that third spot. So that seems to be the order for me. So injuries, that's the reason why I didn't go Evan Ingram. But if we're talking, if they all can stay healthy, Evan Ingram is the easy one for that. Just because, as you said, he has done it in the NFL. But again, I just don't think we see more than 12 games out of him.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big concern. Also, he's, from what we heard from the OTAs, he wasn't exactly working with the inline tight ends. You might as well qualify him as a wide receiver as well, based on the slot usage from what was reported. So again, if he was like this true, like how many snaps is he going to get? Because you're eating that's out of some wide receivers' hands, right? If he's purely a slot guy. So kind of maybe that hurts Pat Bryant. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how they deploy all of them. I know Sean Payton historically has been one of the heavier uses of different personnel as far as coaches in the last decade. He likes to rotate guys, offensive skill guys, a high amount, unless he has that, that one superstar that he can build the offense through. But I don't know if Denver has that guy right now. I think Sutton is very good. I would like to get a contract in place just for the stability of having Sutton. I'm not sure what that looks like. I don't want to pay him top 10, top 12 wide receiver money, but if it can come in somewhere, 15th to 20th on a 3-year deal, that's essentially a 2-year deal, an extension. So it's essentially 4 years of control. Then I'm in. I'm in on that proposition. But I mean, this is probably his last chance to really cash in. So we'll see. But overall, I mean, we talked about it a lot on Monday. This is a room that a lot of potential, a lot of youth and unknown, specifically the wide receiver room, but you had Harvey as well. So that makes, excitement, optimism, that spring and summer that Barnwell talks about, but it doesn't always work out as well as the Broncos defense did last season, where everything did seem to hit.
And it's one of those things where after the season, we can look back at Bill Barnwell's ranking and say, hey, that was more than fair, or kind of slept on it a little bit. And we can at least understand why, because as we've said multiple times, it's still so much potential that if they realize his talent, then this wide receiver room can boom, so to speak. But it's just as likely that they boom as they do fall flat on their face outside of Cortland Sutton. So until we see it, we don't know. So that's why I think 23 is fair, but they could be of a spot deserving higher after the season or even lower after the season, because some of the teams after them, they have similar questions with the unknown aspect that they have in their weapons. The Chicago Bears, for one, with Roma Dunze and Colson Loveland, if they boom out, that could easily put them ahead of the Broncos. So a lot of questions there with that room. And that's one thing that we've been harping on it since January, February, and we'll probably keep harping on it until we start seeing it on the field, that this room just lacks realized talent.
Yeah, so Broncos coming in here, ranked 23rd in Barnwell's list here, which again, we think is fair. What needs to happen for this team to work their way up into top 15, potentially top 10? But before I'll let you chew on that for a second. Did want to say hello more to Edward Keating, 13-4, win the division. Also believe Bryant develops well. I think Sutton might be gone. What do you guys think? There's room for plenty of wide receivers, but depending on the holdup with Sutton's contract, if Bryant or Vele specifically stand out, then that's possible. But I think it has as much to do with what Sutton's demanding contractually, which, go get what you can. I don't fault him at all. He's been on this team for a year with varying levels of quarterback play, and by all accounts, a great guy. So go. I would love him to stay in Denver. I think he's a good representation of like the kind of person that you want to have on your team to pull for. But at the same time, you're out there putting yourself on the line, and it's a free market, so to speak. I guess there's a cap, so not exactly, but there's a market. So go make what you can.
Yeah, and with Sutton, I mean, you kind of touched on it, a 2-year deal with that third year as kind of an option. I wouldn't be surprised if they went that route, because that gives more time for Vele or Bryant to really grow into the NFL. I also wouldn't be surprised if we just see a series of like a 3 1-year option type deal of, we're going to give you guaranteed money in that first year, cementing them for this year and then next year. And then 2 years after that, that money guarantees on a certain date, And depending on how you do, we can bring you back or we can let you go. If Pat Bryant, Devon Bailey step up. So that's kind of what I'm expecting with Cortland Sutton. I don't think they'll just move on from him after the season, because I think it's like $7.2 million in dead cap space with his contract voiding. And I think they'd like to do something to avoid that. So I don't think that they're just going to let him walk, even if Pat Bryant and Devon Bailey, explode this season. I think they'll at least do a 1-year deal to, spread out to lower that dead cap hit and work some money around. But they have their options available to them. And as you said, they have plenty of room for these wide receivers to step up and still keep Sutton, because that is how starved this room is for realized talent.
Yeah, absolutely. Granted, I'd rather be starving at those spots than the defensive line or the offensive line or the quarterback position. Heck, maybe even other than the secondary. I don't know. That's a debate there between the secondary and the skill guys. Edwards, we got you already, but thank you. We got C. Chang says Adam Rank predicts the Broncos going 11-6. I think that's where I was at when we did our schedule. You were like 13-4 or something, Eric. You were nobody can call you a hater after that. Pull out the receipts. But I think I had them at 11-6.
Yeah, I mean, 13-4 was about the ceiling that I had at them, but there's 2 games on the schedule that I am, I put it like 55-45 in the Broncos' favor. So if it went the other way, I wouldn't be overly surprised bringing them down to 11-6. But I think that would probably be my floor for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, without a doubt, we got Todd in the house. Hello, Broncos country. Great to see you. He's saying 12-5. Love it. Love it. Paul says a real running game would be so nice. Yeah, I mean, they definitely left some meat on the bone last season. Roy's asking a personal question. How's the weight control going, Eric? Eric looks thin in the face other than the beard growing there. But yeah, you can share whatever you want, but yeah, you're doing the work.
It's been rough. So May and June are very busy months. I have 4 birthdays, an anniversary, Mother's Day, Father's Day, and of course the 4th of July in early June or early July. And those are days that I don't track my calories. I don't do a lot, and I haven't been able to do as much exercise as I want. I've actually put on about 15 pounds, but I'm getting back on track and losing it and everything. So I've actually already dropped about 3 pounds in the last week as I start to get things back on track.
There you go. Yeah, we want you. I want you to like hide behind a post when we get to the meet and greet. Like, where's Eric? Hide behind Chad or something. I don't know. Chad's a fit guy too. So I'd like to have everybody healthy and everything. Especially maybe we'll do a Mile High Huddle 14er or something. We'll climb one of those peaks. But yeah, back to the question I gave you. Broncos. So right now 23rd. What has to happen? Could be one player. Could be multiple things. For us to look back and say this is a unit that's not the best in the NFL, but like 10 to 15, which is a pretty big jump considering you're 23.
I think there's 2 or 3 ways that can happen, and it just depends on how much you want to spread out the production, really. You can get Cortland Sutton having a season like he did last year, and I think that would be a good start. And then Evan Ingram, I think it was not last season, but the 2023 season where he had like almost 800 yards. If you can get a production like that out of him, well, then I think we're talking right around 20th. And if you can add in either Devon Bailey, Marvin Mims, Franklin, Bryant, one of those guys having another, 6, 7, 800-yard season, then we're in that conversation. Or you can get, a few 400 to 500-yard seasons out of a couple of those guys. And RJ Harvey, getting him over 1,000 rushing yards and probably another 500 to 750 receiving yards out of it, or basically getting about 17 to 1,900 out of yards from scrimmage from your top 2 running backs, I should say. If you can get that, I think then we're pretty safely in the top 15 range at the very least.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, for me, I think it's got to be first and foremost one of these day 2 rookies popping. I mean, you've had a lot of praise for Pat Bryant. I mean, Sean Payton doesn't steer away from that. He doesn't, keep them down. You can tell when he doesn't like a guy with how he talked about Russell Wilson. He likes Harvey and Bryant. So I think number one is having one of those guys like make an immediate pop this season, because again, the ceiling is high for those guys. Now it's, spring, summer potential, and that only goes so far this time of year, but it happens every year as well, Eric. There's 1 or 2 rookies that you look back, it's like, oh, we're having the redraft, come December, and you're like, Pat Bryant's showing up with the 26th overall pick. RJ Harvey is the second back off the board. So I think really, and I'm not expecting it, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that either, but having one of those 2 rookies pop, I think is the biggest way we can close the gap there. Now, obviously, Cortland Sutton repeating his, Evan Ingram staying healthy. We don't really have a lot of youthful upside potential in the tight end room, in my opinion. So it's probably going to come from them. It could still be Mims, could be Troy Franklin. I don't even think Bill Barnwell mentioned Devon Bailey, but again, you just don't have the draft pedigree with those guys. I just don't know if the ceiling is as high. So I really think it comes down to one of those rookies popping. I think it's more likely we'll know about Harvey. If Bryant doesn't pop immediately, I'm not going to be all out on him. Just like I'm not all the way out on Franklin either. The young guys, you want to take some time to see what they can do at some of those positions when they're not lottery picks, first round picks and everything like that. But man, I think, and I'm not going to say George Payton and Sean Payton, they've done some pretty good stuff. They've been hitting well above average in the draft. It's hard to do that consistently, but there's a real chance that Harvey or Bryant could end up being way better than their draft slot, and that could really change the perspective of this room, both from us, but also those who are covering the league at large.
Yeah, on that, on a similar conversation with that, when we're talking about it with Devon Bailey specifically, even if last year's the best year of his career, it's pretty safe to say that the pick that they took him with, it's still a steal, because that was great production for a 7th round pick. Who, when you're talking about 7th round picks, how rare it is for them to even see the field at the NFL level, let alone put up the second most receiving yards for a 7th round pick since Marquise Colston. You just don't get that kind of production from them. So when it comes to RJ Harvey and Pat Bryant, as you said, it's very easy for us to be at the end of this year looking back and saying at least one of those guys is a complete steal. It wouldn't be surprising if we're looking back and we're saying one of those guys was a significantly better pick and probably, what's better value of a pick than Jahdae Barron, because of how corners can, translate to the NFL. And, there can be some issues there with some questions about where Barron's going to play, how much is he going to play, even though nickel corners in this defense are a starting job, seeing over 900 snaps in the season. there's still, some people still have some questions about that. So that's a conversation we can be having after the season. And it's very easy for RJ Harvey to be that guy, because easier for running backs, especially in Sean Payton's scheme, to, jump into the NFL and contribute. And wide receiver, it's a little bit more difficult. But if a wide receiver was going to do it, Pat Bryant would be a good one to bet on, because of the pedigree that he has, being praised for his football IQ, the wide range of skills that he has. I think it was Sean Payton who mentioned how he's not, not explosive, but he has an explosive get off, meaning he can get off the line pretty quickly and create separation, which is something that Sean Payton loves, especially on those slant routes that he likes. So it's very easy to see one of these guys. Will they both do it? I doubt it, but it wouldn't, as you said, it wouldn't be surprising if one of them were this time this year. We're talking about them as, hey, that's the second, that should have been the second back drafted, or that should have been the first or second or third wide receiver drafted.
Yeah. God, man, your lips to football God's ears. I did want to congratulate Big E, talking about accomplishing. Congrats on that. And then he said he went from 468 to 267. I mean, that's congrats to you, man. That is that's some serious work and determination. And I hope you're feeling better and healthier. But there's Scott with the X chat there. Hello, X. How you doing? Good to see you. Yeah, congrats, Big E. And unfortunately, we're going to wrap it up here pretty soon. It's 5:40 my time, 6:40 Pacific, and shorter times right now. Unless super chats come in, we'll definitely get those. But what happens for this unit to go from 23rd ranking to bottom 5 in the league when we're doing this 10 months from now?
RJ Harvey doesn't, not necessarily doesn't see the field, but doesn't meet the hype. Evan Ingram misses a lot of time with injury.
Fumbles the football.
Fumbles, drops.
For Harvey.
Lack of improvement of, tracking the ball with Troy Franklin. Ball security with everybody. There's a lot that can go wrong with this group. A lot more that can go wrong with this group to drop it than there is for them to go right and, improve. Which is should be pretty logical, I guess, if you think about it. Just more ways, injuries being the biggest one, ball security, and just none of these guys taking that step up that they need to take with these guys that are 3 years or less in the NFL. Marvin Mims remains just a gadget player. Troy Franklin still has issues tracking the ball deep. Devon Bailey still has issues with those drops in the critical moments. Even Cortland Sutton having some issues with drops, fumbles with RJ Harvey, ball security, not improving as a pass protector to see the field on third down. Dobbins injury, Ingram's injuries, like there's a lot that can go wrong for them to drop off.
Yeah. I mean, for me, Harvey, the big concern is the fumbles. Of course, he fumbled a lot in college. That's one that'll get you off the field. I mean, we talk about pass protection a lot as well, but pass protection, you can at least, take him off the field. It does limit your ceiling, but if you're fumbling the football, there is no ceiling at all because you're not going to be seeing the field, especially with games shortening, less possessions right now. Turnovers are more important than ever. And if you're just coughing it up, giving it away, I don't care how great you are. If you're going to have to run like Barry Sanders to even have a chance to see the field if you're giving up turnovers left and right and fumbling the football. So that's the one that concerns me a great deal. Could see Sutton also. He had a really good season last season. I'm not suggesting it, but when you have a baseline trend and you have a point up here, more likely you're going to push back to the trend when you're somebody of Sutton's age. So again, he's had a lot of different quarterbacks. He's obviously the focal point of the pass game. Hopefully Evan Ingram can take some of that off of him. And yeah, you mentioned it. Evan Ingram injuries, you're back to Troutman, Kroll, and Atkins. Not scaring anyone with that group, except Broncos fans with that group. What's Dulcich up to these days? I don't even know. But we got Todd here with one before we wrap it up. How much of a leap forward would you think the realistic for the wide receiver group with a lot of these younger guys showing some promise? Could go a lot of ways. I mean, you talk about Troy Franklin, still struggling with the route tree and drops down the field. Vele's been kind of weird injury hush this season. And Mims, I know some people covering the Broncos have really latched on to Mims, how he was during the end of the season and the regular season. But I mean, very small sample size. We saw him disappear in that Buffalo game. And I think a lot of those same people were really hyping up Mims a year ago at this point. Like, oh, Broncos second round pick, which is understandable. You're looking for avenues for guys to explode and become difference makers, but wouldn't bank on that being the baseline for him. The one positive there, we didn't talk about Mims too much. Barnwell talks about as well being the gadget guy. Sean Payton, the fact that he's on every single game, he's like, get Mims the ball more. We need to find out how to get the ball to Mims. Hopefully that's more of a concentrated effort this season to get him the football.
Yeah, so a realistic jump for this group. Well, I mean, say this group is 25th. I think that a realistic jump is probably getting them just above into the late teens at the highest. I think that's a realistic jump. I don't think Troy Franklin's going to jump in and be an immediate star, not with the issues that he has and how wide his issues are. I'm not predicting much improvement from Marvin Mims. I think you might be able to see a little bit more out of him, but still fall into that gadget player category. Devon Bailey, I think we'll see a slight improvement from last year at the very least. Pat Bryant, he's the complete unknown with this, but I don't think he's going to jump in and be a star as a rookie. I don't think he'll see the field enough to be that kind of guy right away. So the wide receiver room alone, if these guys show some of these improvements that they can make and steady improvements, I think the late teens is a realistic jump if we're talking about a ranking against the other 31 teams in the NFL.
Yeah, you said it. So thank you, Todd. And also thank you to Michael coming in here. Says, great show tonight, Nick and Eric, on building the Broncos. Go Bo Broncos. Go, Michael. Appreciate you coming in a couple of times. Got Shiloh as well. Hope your dog walk is going well. Hopefully not getting eaten by mosquitoes. That's every experience I've had in Minnesota has been mosquitoes, the sight of hummingbirds, but a lot of good lake days as well out there in the summer. Beautiful spot to vacation. And I got David Papa Bear Mickelrath coming in here, and it's not sorry, but we had David Carmelo as well. So appreciate him. There we go, David as well. Appreciate him. Eric, any final thoughts here? I think, again, we're not going to be too upset or up in arms about the Broncos being ranked. Like, what would this be a grade wise? C-, D+? I think that's about where we had them on the whole in that when you're doing a true bell curve where it's evenly distributed. That's about where we had them. So, again, not too upset about it. I think it's fair. But, again, big thing, and you can call me, trying to have it both ways, talking out both sides of my mouth. There's so much youth, wide receivers, plus Harvey, that the air bars are wide for the range of outcomes. So potential for sure. Maybe not the tight end room as much, other than Ingram, of course, but the youth that with the wide receivers and Harvey give optimists a reason for hope.
Yeah, I mean, Barnwell, again, weighted it for wide receivers. The wide receiver room is full of potential, more than realized talent. Running back room, more of potential than realized talent. Tight end room is realized talent, but can the top guys stay healthy? So they all have these concerns about what they're going to do this year, how much they can contribute this year. And with that, you're going to see them drag down a little bit. So it's a fair ranking for that. But again, as I said earlier, it's one of those rankings where after the season, we could be talking about how low it was. If they can realize even some of that potential that they have between the wide receiver room and running back room, it could easily be a grade that's too low. And next year, when he does his rankings, we can see that big jump. I mean, if we look at it, last year they were ranked 30th. So they moved up from last year from 30th to 23rd. So, and even 2023, they were 24th. So they moved up a spot from 2 years ago. So this time next year, we could be looking at the late teens or even mid-teens, depending on how well these units do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, man, fun show. We'll be back again tomorrow morning. So you guys don't have to wait too long for us. About 12 hours from now, we'll be talking ball again, 13 hours from now. So appreciate everyone. A lot of fun. Thanks, Bill Barnwell, for providing some off-season content to talk about. And make sure you guys are following Eric and I on Twitter. Eric is at Erick Trickel. I'm at Nick Kendell, MHH. Also follow us at Mile High Huddle. We're over at Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle as well. And as that ticker says there underneath, please subscribe, like, and share over on YouTube. Appreciate all the thumbs up and everything from everybody on Facebook. The reacts, that helps us a heck of a lot. You guys have a great rest of your day. Hopefully the full week following a 3-day holiday weekend is not too painful for all those at home. And we appreciate you. Continue to choose kindness and compassion, and go Broncos.